All right, great. Sounds good. Okay, great. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Kaycee Lai. I'm the CEO and founder of Promethium, and we're super excited here today to talk about how you can actually accelerate business decision making by removing some of the blockers to a lot of business organizations that we see today. And so when we talk to customers, one of the things that we actually find a lot is that, today we live in a world where everyone's got data in many locations. I think the very few customers we talk to have the luxury of actually just having one database or one data warehouse anymore. They're obviously trying to do analytics and trying to be data driven, but requires them to actually have to do this where data is in multiple places. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is there's such a long delay to actually getting answers that it prevents businesses from being able to make data-driven decisions quickly. And so shockingly, or maybe not shockingly to some of you guys, a lot of businesses actually say that they actually can't make data-driven decisions. A lot of times it's, more gut feel, and it's because of the timing and the complexity to actually get the data to the business very, very quickly. And so this is the problem that Promethium is laser focused on solving. We believe that everyone benefits by being data driven, and everyone benefits by being able to get the right data to the business in real time. And so we built our solutions specifically to do this. And what's cool is that what we've seen in the last year is that when we took out the friction to get the data to the business, our customers started asking a lot more questions. And so we're happy to say that in the last year or so, our customers have answered over 15,000 business questions using Promethium. And so we're really happy today to have a great experienced data leader like Lalit Thakur from American Tire Distributors today. So we want to have a discussion. Lalit and I are going to have a chat about what it means to be a data leader in today's modern world, what it means to try and empower the business with data and try to do it quickly. So, with that, I'm going to introduce Lalit, the SVP and Chief Data Officer for American Tire Distributors. So, Lalit, over to you. Love for you to kind of just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about ATD and your organization.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kaycee, for that background as well as the overview of the stack. My name is Lalit Thakur. I'm the Chief Data Officer for American Tire Distributor, and I have the pleasure of serving the organization for data and analytics needs. A little bit about our organization, American Tire Distributors. Right? We distribute tires. We are the #1 tire distributor, the largest replacement tire distributor in the US. We've got presence in Canada as well. And if you look at our organization, the big thing that pops out is our supply chain ability. So we are a distributor. We sit in the middle of the manufacturers on one end and our customers on the other end. So we buy tires from our manufacturers, and these tires are in the warehouses, and I call them DCs or distribution centers. There are 139 DCs across North America, Canada, and US. And these DCs receive tires not only directly from our manufacturers, but also from ocean. We bring the containers of tires into our mixing centers. These are large warehouses or mixing warehouses, 4 of them spread across the nation, and they're strategically located closer to the port so that we can bring in these containers into these mixing warehouses. And from there, it goes to the 139 DCs and then onto the last mile delivery to our customers. We've got about 80,000 customers in all, which translates to about 130,000 delivery points. Some customers have multiple delivery locations. And if you look at by volume, we've got about $1 billion of product on hand. And we tend to be what I call it as a bottomless pit, right? How can I serve our customers in a very timely fashion, and our products are always available to them? That's our approach to distribution. The distribution is done by about 1,400 fleet, our internal truck, but we also have capability from third parties like the FedExes of the world, the UPSs, etc. And overall, we've got about 5,000 associates across the organization. and we deliver about 45 million units every year. These numbers keep changing, but one of the big things that is important and central to American Tire Distributor is our ability to leverage our data and technology. We pride ourselves to be data and technology savvy organization, and we sometimes call ourselves as the ATD with market leading capability in insights and analytics across the organization. In fact, if you look at our strategy pyramid, that is the tip of the pyramid, is to be the market leading insights and analytics. So with that, Brett, if you can move on to the next slide. I do want to kind of give you a taste of how we think. What's our culture, right? We distribute tires. However, if you look at our vision statement, the vision statement is to be the most connected and insightful automotive solutions provider. And that is important to us. We're not it doesn't say tires, it doesn't say distribution, it says to be a solutions provider. And that's how we think at the highest level. That's how our SLT thinks, that's how the rest of the organization thinks. And more importantly, not only our vision, but also our values, right? If you see, it's a clever way of showing the values. We've got, and we call it iCare. It's cleverly put in the form of a gears. And those who are younger audience, they may or may not recognize that gear symbol, but I'm sure you're playing Xbox and you probably have seen that gear symbol. But the point of the story is, our organization relies heavily on data and technology and analytics. We are a solutions provider in the automotive industry, and we leverage our strengths, our core values in order for us to propel forward. So with that, Kaycee, I'm going to pass it back to you. That's the brief background about my organization and what we've done.
Great. Thank you, Lalit. That's very helpful, very insightful. By the way, I'm waiting for your image to be updated with paddle shift, because I think that's where most cars have. So I'd be curious what your marketing team can come up with for the next iteration. But this is great. And I think, Lalit, one of the things that I noticed when you were sharing your slide is just all those things that you have to deal with means potentially a lot of different sources where the data exists, right? And not just data internal to you guys, data from your vendors, data from your suppliers, et cetera. And if you're trying to do analytics and trying to optimize for analytics, for just-in-time shipping and logistics, et cetera, it's got to be very difficult, right? It's got to be challenging to try and do that quickly and automated. And this is something that we see quite a bit, and one of the things that we find is a bottleneck a lot of times is really just the complex schlepping and moving of data and the complex ETL, and a small data team to be able to handle this, which is usually why there is a long time to getting answers. And so we pride ourselves in being able to allow data teams to get the answers without the long complex ETL and without having to do the data movement. And the result is being able to get the answers faster. And love to kind of get your thoughts on that, Lalit. Is as you have data in many different places, many different vendors, how have you kind of seen that as what are your thoughts on how to leverage solutions to be able to empower the business to be able to get the data faster?
Yeah, Kaycee, so I'll describe a little bit about our complexity from a technology perspective, right? Sources of systems, kind of what you described. And it's not unusual. A lot of the organizations that are on the call and in the industry have that kind of a complex ecosystem. So it's nothing new or unusual. However, what's critical for us is we have made it our mantra to have data-driven decision. And we don't say this lightly. We actually have a plan that by 2023, we want to make data-driven decision. And it's not a technology problem, quite frankly. We got to fire on multiple fronts. So let me step back and talk about our ecosystem. So we've got the obvious, the ERPs, the warehouse management system. We've got CX system, we've got the routing software, we've got the pricing software, we've got the marketing software, we got the financial related, a whole bunch of capabilities and systems producing the data. How do you bring all of these data sets together is the problem number one. And then getting it together is just part of the problem. How do you actually connect them? And then how do you serve it for our business leaders? In order for a business person to make data-driven decisions, we fired on three fronts, right? The first one was the operating model. The second one was, how do I modernize technology stack? And then the third one was talent. Operating model is a big one, right? We need to ensure that our culture around data, around digital athlete is what I call them, percolates across the organization. Secondly, when we look at ourselves, we want to be more product centric. So getting us out of the report and dashboard mentality into an analytic product concept to ensure that there's a line of sight and a business alignment with the business unit, right? So these individuals that we have in our data management office, that's what I call them, are now connected with a business partner. They actually are speaking that language. They're actually serving the business. They're designing products with the business for the business, which has led to a lot of operational visibility. And now we are taking that a step forward, and we are actually going into the business, training them, tracking the usage, challenging on why certain DCs or certain sales team may or may not be using the product or underutilizing. So it is that follow through from an operating model perspective. The second area is the modernizing of stack. So we got to bring in, we've stood up data lakes. We're modernizing our analytic platform from the old to the new. We're bringing in augmented analytics. We're bringing in data fabric as a concept, because to your point, I'm not going to wait. The business is not going to wait for an answer. They need the answer now. So how can I connect to a source, even though I have not moved the data yet, bring the data in real time, do some massaging and connecting, and then serve it back. That kind of a data service capability is important to the organization, in addition to analytics products. And these are the individuals that are challenged to answer a problem in a matter of hours or days and not have to wait for weeks or months. So how can we do that from a self-service capability and data-driven decision perspective? And then the last one is talent. I don't think that's new or different for anybody on this call. It is, how do I bring in the talent? How do I train them, groom them, and then retain them, as well as award them career paths? So those are the three fronts that we fired on as we stood up the data management office and the capabilities.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lalit. I think that it makes a lot of sense. And obviously we're very, very proud and very happy to be able to partner with you on this journey to provide that data fabric to make it easier for your data teams to be able to connect to all these different data sources and be able to, automate a lot of this process to get the data to the business a lot faster. So, that is, core to what we're doing. And, we're lucky enough to actually have, other people who think that we're doing something important. So, Promethium is very proud for the awards that we've been winning in the industry. And, really, I think as much as, Lalit and I love talking about technology, I think the end of the day, we always realize that we can't do technology for technology's sake. There has to be a business value. Like, we have to be solving problems for the business, right? And so this is where, we want to, at least I want to touch upon the fact that we're not doing this because it's cool. We're doing this because, we want to remove obstacles so that the business can be free to innovate, be free to ask whatever questions they want and not be restricted and not have to compromise. And so these are the bottlenecks that we're trying to remove at Promethium, is to enable self-service and enable full automation and empower, teams like Lalit's data management office to be able to, with one person being able to increase their ability to support, tens, hundreds, if not thousands of business users. And so that is why, we have been focused on, the data fabric that we have called our data navigation system that allows teams to have these capabilities of not only, universal connectivity, but also global visibility into what is needed where it is, what's good data, what's bad data, and how to put it together. And I think we've started this journey with Lalit and his team. Lalit, just love to kind of get your thoughts as you think about because the data fabric is still a relatively new concept that's out there. What kind of thoughts and advice do you have for organizations who are thinking about things like data fabric? Because you've had the luxury experience of thinking about this, and we've worked together for a while. But for teams who are just starting now, what would you say some of the things that they should think about as they start thinking about a data fabric strategy?
Sure, I can share how we planned and how we have rolled out that capability. I suspect it's not going to be anything new or different. I think many organizations think that way and have rolled out their approach in a similar fashion. So one of the first things we did, we talked about the operational model, talent, as well as the platforms, right? So that modernization. But what's our North Star? So we reflected back on our North Star, and it came out to be, I want to make data-driven decisions. So there's a whole bunch of activities that spawn as a result. From a technology front, specifically, what we did was we said, to support that North Star, what are the capabilities we need? So we came up with what I call it as the enterprise information factory concept view. And in that, we brought in a whole bunch of concepts. It's very business readable. So it doesn't say searching, it says intelligent searching. It doesn't say ETL, it says moving of the data. So something along those lines. So we articulated what is it that we want, and it's a 3-year roadmap that we put together, and we started to chip away at it. One of the ones that we came up with was, I know we need to bring the data, and I call it the 4 C's, right? I got to collect, I got to clean, then I got to connect, and then I can consume, right? So once I do that consumption, that collection part doesn't mean that I physically move the data. And that's where the data fabric came in handy, right? So there was an example where we worked on a project together, actually, Kaycee, was around the marketing data, where we had tons of marketing data. How do I reconcile with invoicing data that sits in a completely different platform? So one approach was to actually physically move the 2 data sets, which was very complex and very time consuming. How can we leverage the data fabric and connect one system versus the other system, and then come up with the answers while we work towards possibly orchestrating the data in a different fashion? So thinking about those business values, and the reason why we took marketing was, quite frankly, that was the burning need for the business. And we solved that using the data fabric capability. And now we are coming after the fact and moving the data, which we have to for a variety of other reasons, but at least I got the answers to the business in a short order. So to think about technology as a means to achieve our ends rather than the end goal is one of the ones that we very early on recognize is the way to go.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thanks, Lalit. Now, one of the things that we see a lot in the data management space is a lot of times people will spend a lot of time with a lot of putting together like several bespoke, solutions and kind of combining that and so forth. And, typically it leads to, 18, 24 months before you even have anything that you can use. But I would say more often than not, that seems to be the more popular approach is, let's get a big SI engagement going and let's figure out, the best of breed and kind of manage all together. Like when you guys were going through, kind of solving this and kind of your initiatives, did that ever cross your mind? Like, let's do the traditional way of kind of going through that, and I'd love to kind of hear from your thought process of why you guys decided not to do something like that.
Yeah, in my mind, there's no right or wrong approach, right? I mean, I was in one conference, and I'll tell you a small story there. Mm-hmm. And I met like-minded CDOs, and they all described the challenges, which resonated very well with me. They talked about, should it be centralized? Should it be decentralized? Innovation versus governance. Do we do big bang, with kind of like what you're describing with these big vendors and big plans, or do we chip away in slices? And I don't think there's a right or wrong, quite frankly. As long as you're even if you're going back and forth between the 2 models, as long as you're propelling forward and moving the business value, that is one of the ones that will help you either succeed or show you some subpar results. So in our case, we said the big bang, wait for 12 months, 18 months, and then I will show you outputs. That does not resonate with the business. We are a very different company. And I say this out loud because we actually are accelerating forward in a very fast fashion, to the extent that we have grown top line and bottom line in this time. And in order for us to do that, there is no luxury of waiting. Plus, we differentiate ourselves and pride ourselves in the marketplace by having all of these new business models come up. We are in ESG space, so we are challenging ourselves on the carbon footprint. We are doing connected culture. We are doing a lot of community engagement, and believe it or not, all of these have business implication, but also has data and technology implication. ESG is a great example. How do we say how much carbon are we consuming, carbon points are we consuming in a year across our fleet, across our DCs, across automobiles that we serve, right? So all of that, it requires data, and the data comes ad hoc fashion, and I don't have the luxury of waiting for 18 months.
And Lalit, this is a kind of a rhetorical question, but sometimes I find that it is helpful for people to understand the impact, because some people might never really think about the wait time because it's quote unquote someone else's problem. And so I'll pose it to you, in your organization, like what would happen if you told your business, I'll get back to you in 18 months, or I'll get back to you in 4 months? What would the response be? What would the impact be?
Yeah. So just for the record, I will never say that. I'll get back to you in 18 months. And in fact, I don't want to hear that from anybody else, that I'll get back to you in 18 months, or I'll even 3 months is too long, right?
Right.
And I recognize it's a rhetorical question, but if you look at even our senior leadership, right, within the organization, they are very data savvy people, right? They understand, for example, MDM. A lot of the SLT, that I would have the dealings in the past may or may not truly understand MDM or master data management at a granular level. Our organization does. So really, for them to get an answer that wait for 3 months before I will give you the value, it's something that nobody's going to give that answer, right? It's going to be iterative in nature. And I know we say agile, and it's a cliche, but we really operate in that fashion where even though I do not have the foundation built fully, but let me show you some output. And that is a good way to demonstrate that it's working. It's a good way to do a checkpoint with the SLT. It's a good way to do a checkpoint with the business and seek their feedback as we build technology and foundations and all.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. And again, it's a rhetorical question, but sometimes you'd be surprised, I think, because some people do have the luxury, but I think it's important for people to know, like, look, I think we're in a very different landscape today than say 5-10 years ago, where some organizations could have the luxury. I think everything moves so quickly. We truly believe that every company is a data company in the sense that is actually how you drive your competitive advantage. And so speaking of data, like, I'm just curious, like, what are the types of scale challenges that you have to think about? And not so much scale in terms of data, because I think for the most part, I think the cloud and cloud data warehouses have actually solved that. But like requests, queries and so forth, like, how do you guys think about how do we build a solution that enables us to sustain basically the demand for the business? And if you can kind of talk about that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I like the fact that you're thinking scale, not in terms of the volume of data, quite frankly, right? The volume is the volume, but the scale where it shows up is in the different business models that our teams have come up with and expect that the data technology just to serve those business models. I'll give you an example. We distribute tires. We move it from, we deliver it to our customers. We buy from our manufacturers. We have a bottomless inventory, so to speak, and it's got the associated supply chain related challenges. However, we came up with a 3PL model, and we actually spun it off as a separate business. It's a wholly owned subsidiary, but at the same time, it's taking care of 3PL needs for our retailers as well as our customers. So we look at our retailers as well as our customers as broad partners. And this 3PL business has now grown so much so that next year, we're going to actually go even in a much more enhanced model. We didn't think about this over years, right? It came up as a model. We pressure tested it, it works, and we were expected to deliver data and technology for it. That's one example. Another example, we have a B2B arm, we have a B2C arm. How can we grow and scale our B2C arm in addition to the B2B? We spun that up, and we are working towards that. And there are many, many examples within American Tire. Quite frankly, last year, I think we may have come up with 4 to 6 different business models in addition to the run and maintain. So that kind of a scale requires a rapid turnaround from a data and technology. The first cut could be an analysis of an Excel sheet. I get it, but eventually it has to turn into a product and a sustainable operational methodology.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's really helpful. One of the things that, we see a lot in the organization and actually across many organizations is the challenge that there's a shortage of data engineers and savvy data analysts out there in the marketplace. And it's, unfortunately, it's a very hot, highly demanded job, very, very hot market, et cetera. As a CDO and you're thinking about that and staffing your team, et cetera, right? How do you think about, how do you empower them to do more, right? Both the data team and then also, some data leaders we talk to are actually saying, hey, I actually want to empower not just the data team. I actually want to empower, the consumers, right? People who consume the data want to be able to have a way where they can do some of this work on themselves. So the idea of no-code solutions and self-service kind of comes into play. What are your thoughts and learnings that you've kind of gained through this journey, and any advice for other organizations as they think about that?
Yeah, so what you're picking on is that third pillar, if you will, around the talent. From a talent perspective, we were very clear, right? So what we need is an individual that is business savvy and happens to be an engineer or an architect, right? It's not the other way around. And that enabled the team, and they're still on that maturity curve, is to have that vocabulary, have that understanding. It's just not a number. If there's a number, let's say I'm calculating the unit cost or gross profits, I can say, yeah, that number sounds right. In the past, the business team would say that doesn't look good or right or wrong. Now we've got a sniff test within our teams that we are able to go through. So having that business mindset is important. The other thing that I advise the entire team is to be a Swiss Army knife, right? You're a scissor one day and you're a nail file or a screwdriver the third day, right? So how can you have multiple talents? Because those days of just doing one thing are gone, right? You are bleeding across in your ecosystem. And then, you brought up the no-code, low-code solution, which is important. So as we are, for example, standing up data science, right? From a talent perspective, you cannot keep hiring data scientists. It's just not sustainable, just to attract the talent and retain the talent. Everybody has the same problem. So how can we bring in platforms that will serve as a citizen data science, for example? How can we bring platforms from a data fabric perspective that you can do a little bit of a drag and drop and then get things going. So those types of options are something that we are a big proponent of, because I don't want to do technology for the technology's sake. I know it's, everybody wants to write code from the beginning and it's just very satisfying, but that's something that's being substantiated by other organizations. Now it's time to leverage that capability. And then the last piece of advice that I quite frankly have, if I may, that's worked well for us, is to have your individuals in your team treat them as mission leaders. And that's worked really well for us. We treat everything as a mission, and these mission drivers or the mission leaders, they could be anybody. They could be data engineer, BI analyst, could be director, doesn't matter. And even though you got this data engineer leading the mission, they may have a manager or a director on their team, whereas they're the leaders. So not having that that barrier, right, hierarchical barrier, which quite frankly resonates really well with not only the younger talent, but also broadly with a lot of the data management staff.
Got it. Now that is super helpful, and I think it's what you're saying is definitely what we're seeing in the marketplace as well. We're seeing a lot of data leaders come to us, and it's before I would say the traditional was there's a hard line between data teams and business teams. The data team's going to do X, and the business team's going to do Y, and it's separate. We're starting to see kind of what you said, where CDOs are asking their data teams, hey, you guys need to understand the business, because you need to understand what kind of questions the business wants to ask. You can anticipate them, or that sniff test that you said. Let's not wait 3 weeks to find out that it's wrong, right? If it doesn't look right to you, you shouldn't even pass that over to the business. And then vice versa. One of the things that we're big proponents of, obviously at Promethium, is the low code and no code aspect of how to empower the business to actually get pretty far down the road by themselves, right? Using low code, no code. So that way, they can get started very quickly. And that way there's less work for the data team to kind of finish up and kind of complete the rest of the process and the workflow. So that is definitely something that, we see a lot as well. And so, the vision of the data fabric in terms of what we offer is definitely, it's more than just connecting to the different data sources, but it's really allowing that flexibility, that agility on both ends, right? On allowing data people to be able to be more business savvy, and allowing the business folks to also be more data savvy as well. So this has been a fantastic discussion. Thanks for sharing that. Brett, I'm going to turn it over to you and see if we've got any questions for Lalit from the audience.
So before Brett jumps in, here's a shameless plug, as well as
I was
Brett.
about to prompt you. Yes.
Yes.
So we are like any other organization. We are growing, right? So our data engineering vertical has grown tremendously. There's a lot of exciting things that we are doing, not only from a data lake perspective, but augmented analytics, data science platforms, et cetera, data fabric that Kaycee's talked about. All of those have required some higher level of attention towards the platform engineering. So I actually have 3 new open roles that please go onto the LinkedIn site, and you can either share the post with others or help us through that journey of recruiting. But there's a director of platform engineering, a data architect, a data engineer, all new roles that we have created for us to be successful in the future.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. And Lalit's a great leader, great organization at ATD. So definitely, I definitely encourage folks to check it out. You get to work on some really cool stuff, solve some really cool, problems, and get to work with really cool tools.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the organization as well, Kaycee. I mean, our organization, I keep saying this over and over, we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. It is one of the ones that is at the leading edge in technology, in data. And quite frankly, this is not just us talking. Our customers say this, our manufacturing partners say this, and other organizations have said that as well.
Cool. Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. So for everyone, I've just put the link to the ATD, American Tire Distributors LinkedIn page in the chat. So go and take a look and see if it's something you're interested in. Before I open up for Q&A, there was one question that came up that for you, Lalit, I'm going to preface this with you. There's a lot going on. Like you're achieving a lot and you're managing many different things across data and analytics. So the question is, how are you measuring success or maturity to say, hey, we're achieving what we want to achieve and we're giving the business what they want?
Yeah, a few things that we have done, right? So I talked about, assessing ourselves, and we did that. So our customers talk about us, our retailers, our partners, manufacturer partners talk, but we actually hired an organization to come in and assess our data management maturity. And this third party came in and looked at our MDM practices, our data practices, and gave us a score on a scale of 5. So at least I know my starting point, I know my baseline, and I know what all things I need to do to go up that maturity curve. So we did that in the data space. We did a similar thing in the analytics space where we actually looked at our analytical capability, including the ability to roll it out to the business, to be able to train the business, to be able to monitor the performance. So all of that was done as well. And then the third thing that we are doing now is we are actually measuring the usage of these products that we are releasing to the business, and we are tracking that performance quarter by quarter. And we want to make sure that that usage from a percentage perspective where we are at now versus where we want to be in 2023 will actually tell the story that yes, the products are being used, the decisions are being made using the data and analytics, and that measurement is going to help us further measure our data-driven decision capability.
All right, gentlemen. Let's wrap up. Any final words? Oh, actually, Lalit, I'll hand over to you first. Final words. Any final advice or recommendations? Then Kaycee will let you wrap up. So.
Yeah, just in general. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity for sharing my thoughts. I feel like everybody in this domain has a lot that they have learned over the past years, and everybody can share their learnings because you can't replicate all of the failures and have time to do that. So I appreciate this kind of an engagement and a chat. Next year, we are poised to do a lot more automation. We want to have these tools that are alerting us, proactively alert us. We're going to go into the predictive prescriptive space. So a lot of tools and technologies are going to be important. I don't want to worry about data movement. I want to make sure that the fabric technology is available to me and I don't have to spend cycles there. I want to solve the business problem and bring in some insights, whether it's around customer churn, whether it's around forecasting, whether it's demand forecasting, purchase forecasting, et cetera, et cetera. How can I get better at that next year? So I appreciate the opportunity, Brett and Kaycee, so thank you.
Too bad.
Yeah, thank you, Lalit. Actually, I just want to, sorry, Kaycee, before you
Yep.
get started, Lalit, I just want to just echo something you said during this session and something we discussed before when we were preparing for this as well. And one of the pieces of advice that Lalit said for data engineers is you will differentiate yourself by knowing the business, right? So what you do is doing something for the business, knowing what that is and what outcome you're driving is going to be important. And then the second thing you said as well that will help data engineers is prioritization, right? Working on the things that really matter, knowing what to work on when, that's key to really being successful from the mouth of a CDO to a data engineer. These are the things that make you stand out. So.
Thanks, Brett. That makes a lot of sense. I guess with closing comments again, thank you, Lalit. This was fun to kind of chat and kind of share your knowledge with the audience. One of the things that we've noticed in the last year is that there's been more of an appetite for from customers looking for change, and it's something that when we talk to analysts like Gartner as well, they've also kind of reiterated that. And so data fabric actually is the most the hottest topic, believe it or not, out there when it comes to searches, inquiries, and so forth. And I think it's because we do live in this fractured world right now, and everyone's looking for a way to better connect to all their data sources. But I think the other part is, I think that the challenge that a lot of CDOs have, and if I were to give any words of wisdom, is don't satisfy for the status quo. I think one of the things that I hear a lot, I just talk to my customers, is like, there's always that one guy that says, but I'm good at writing manual ETL. I'm really good at moving data. Like, why do I have to change? And I think kudos to a lot of the forward-thinking CDOs out there. Is their response is, you might be good at it, but the business is still waiting 3 weeks for you, and there's one of you, and there's thousands of business users waiting. So thanks, but we're going to have to innovate, right? And we're not afraid to innovate. We're going to look for new ways so that we can automate and we can scale. And so that's my advice to CDOs out there is don't be afraid to, break the mold a little bit and say, just because that was done 30 years ago, doesn't mean it has to be done the same way. And so I would encourage everyone to, there's a lot of choices on data fabrics out there. By the way, there's a lot of different definitions as well. So just fair warning, no two companies define data fabric the same way. Look it up, talk to folks, talk to industry analysts, kind of get their take on that and pick the right thing that's right for you. But we do believe that there is a reason why this is one of the most hottest topics out there, because we do think the data fabric is here to stay. It's going to make all our lives a lot easier and be much more responsive to the business. So with that, thank you, everybody, and happy holidays. Have a great, holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year very shortly.
Yes. Happy holidays, everybody. Yeah.